motivated you to do this, to go around the world? Give an example or something.
Yeah, I've just always been fascinated with what the world is like in a sense, right? So yeah, I wanted to ride my bike. I got into mountain biking in university when I was studying to be an accountant with a friend of mine, and just kind of love mountain biking in general. Like I love riding off-road and seeing, it's just kind of a bit of a high just doing that. So taking the idea and seeing if I could, where I could go around the world that's what the idea was. Yeah.
So you ride like just for transportation too?
Yeah, I ride for transportation. Mostly ride for fun though. Like if it is for transportation, it's fun. If I road bike, it's fun. Mountain biking is fun.
Economically or environmentally, what's your what's your favorite benefit of mountain biking?
Mountain biking in particular
You're
is
just biking around.
Yeah, the benefit is just the fun. It's like everyone loves to ride a bike, right? So I take tours now with we do a lot of people with like Italian people and Spanish people who are generally professionals from big cities, and then we take them from Vancouver to Banff and we do off-road rides, and it's just really neat to see these people just really having the time of their life and choosing to, they're rich people, they can go and they could sit on a beach and pay or stay at a really nice hotel, but we don't stay at nice hotels, we camp somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And we make them food, which probably isn't very good compared to what they eat in Europe, but they're super happy just because they're riding their bikes. So that's what I like about it.
That's sweet. Do you ever get pretty badly injured while mountain biking?
No, actually I haven't got injured at all on mountain bike. I hurt my thumb one time. Not badly injured, yeah.
Do you ever mountain bike up in the Kootenays?
Yeah, I love the Kootenays. So when we do our trip from Vancouver to Banff, it starts right in downtown Vancouver, it's right in Stanley Park. And there's a thing called the Trans-Canada Trail, which is a collection of, it's more of an idea than anything, but it's a collection of all different types of trails all across Canada. But in different parts of Canada, it's more complete than others. But through BC, it's very complete, or it's very, very good. But the neat thing about going through BC is you start right at this like downtown Vancouver, which is basically like a rainforest, and then within those 5 or 10 days that we do about 100 kilometers a day, you go through like 5 completely different climate zones, right? And the Kootenays is totally different than Vancouver, and we go through the Okanagan and then to the Rocky Mountains, and the Rocky Mountains are quite dramatic, and they're really kind of a neat way to end the trip. So, but yeah, the Kootenays are one of my favorite places to go.
Yeah,
that's where I hurt my thumb, riding on the 7 summits outside of Roslyn. It's a very famous mountain bike ride on a ridge up there. Okay.
Your tours, so you're doing 10 days and 1,000 kilometers. So your customers, they're pretty young and fit, or?
Oh, not necessarily, because they do cost. It does cost some money. Well, mostly for Europeans to come over here, or if we go to China, or if we go to Mongolia, it's fairly expensive to get there. But they're usually, so the customers generally are professionals who are 50 years old, that kind of thing on average, but they're enthusiasts, so they ride their bikes all the time on the weekends at their home, and they're fairly fit generally. For those tours, yeah. But we started one here. I was just saying that we did our first tour here, because we live here. The reason why I live in Victoria is because the cycling culture is so incredible. There's so many people passionate about riding their bikes to work, commuting, mountain biking, road biking. That's why I live here. But we do these tours in other parts of the world, and we just started to do another one again here, where we're combining the food and the wine and culture in the Cowichan Valley, and we go over to Port Renfrew and back to Souk, and there's lots of good cycling there. So we just did one here last week for a group from Manitoba, and it went really well, so we'll probably do more here.
So what is a challenge you faced taking a passion into a business?
Well, I mean, for me, that's a good question. So one thing for sure is like the business model isn't necessarily, like people don't necessarily do these types of rides around the world. Like one thing with mountain biking, especially here on the West Coast, people think, well, mountain biking requires a lot of technical skill because there's really technically difficult mountain biking here, and so people think, well, if I haven't done that, I can't do that. But these kind of rides we do is like around the world, actually even through Italy. Like we think because it's an old country and it's it's an industrialized country, you can find trails. There's a trail that comes right from Scotland, and it's a 2,000-year-old trail that comes all the way down to Rome. And like they used to say, all roads would go to Rome, and this is one of them. And then there's also like a 3,000-year-old road that was before the Romans that it's carved out of it's like a big stone road that's carved by the Etruscans. And all those roads still exist, so you can actually ride a bike, and you just have to be relatively fit or want to try. You don't have to be technically challenging. So the question was the challenge is that we kind of created a whole different thing that people don't generally do. They either are mountain bikers or road bikers, but this is more like just finding trails in different places and more adventure style stuff. So that was my passion, and so one of the challenges is trying to figure out how to get that out to people, what that is. And so when you try to kind of create a new market, there's challenges, but it can be rewarding when the people experience it and enjoy it.
So I'm sure you've met a lot of interesting people as you went across the world. Do you have an example of someone you've met or some experience you had?
Yeah, no, I definitely met lots of interesting people. So I went by myself, but then friends would come with me for sort of different periods of time. My uncle had retired, and he wanted to come with me, so he met me in Greece, and then I spent 3 weeks with him as we made our way to Turkey, which was kind of a neat experience because you have your uncle and you see him at family occasions and that sort of thing, and then to spend 3 weeks riding your bike with him, got to know him quite well, so that was kind of cool. I met a guy from Australia when I was in Germany, and we rode through Austria, Slovenia, Croatia together. That was really cool, and we're still good friends today. Yeah, lots of good experiences. The only sort of bad experiences were the police officers in like Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan. Like the people were really, really, really friendly. Like actually the level of hospitality in that area of the world, so it's Central Asia, so Russia's here and Kazakhstan's here, and then Iran, and this is here, kind of in between there, the old USSR countries. Really, really friendly people. In terms of hospitality, every night they would invite me into their homes, feed me, invite their friends over. We'd have like a big celebration, and then they'd leave the next morning. And we would never exchange any language. They could speak Russian. I couldn't really speak Russian. They couldn't speak English, so that would always happen without speaking to each other. So.
What's it like just taking your bike over a border?
Well, that can be, any border can be difficult. So the one kind of interesting experience was, so I was in Turkey, so Turkey, Georgia, Azerbaijan, and then I took the boat across the Caspian Sea to what's called Turkmenistan, which probably most people don't know too much about. I certainly didn't know anything about it. It was really difficult getting my visa in Turkey for Turkmenistan. They were really, really kind of rude and that sort of thing. But basically, I could only get a 5-day visa to get through it, so it was kind of strange to begin with. At that time, it still is controlled by, I don't know who it is now, but he was a dictator for sure. It was a really weird capital city. It was just big like statues of his head everywhere, this guy. But anyway, so I got to the border there, and that was a bit weird. I was by myself. I wasn't sure what to think, and I was riding through the winter in Turkey. So when I got to the border, there was 3 guards, and like I say, in those areas, the guards are actually the worst because they're the ones who take advantage of you and generally just ask for money and that sort of thing. But one of these big guys got on my bike, and he was like kind of playing around with it, and so I was like, oh geez, I don't want to lose my bike or anything. But he broke the chain, like he was kind of a big fat guy, and he broke the chain, and so then I had my chain breaker, which can fix the chain, and so it kind of worked out well for me actually, because then I just immediately fixed it, and then they all started watching, and then they all said, you're an idiot, and we're being idiots, let's let this guy go.
Wow.
Perspective, yeah, it's you have to try to figure out how to keep yourself going, especially with our business where it's not a store, that sort of thing. You don't go in each day to work per se, so you have to figure out how to get yourself motivated each day to keep doing what you're doing. So actually cycling is probably the one that helps the most for me. Kind of like brings it back. That's when I get my best ideas, is when I'm riding actually. So.
What was the coolest place you rode your bike to?
The coolest place, is probably where we go in Western China. So as you go across Central Asia, and then you hit basically the Tibetan Plateau, and up on the Tibetan Plateau is my favorite place to ride, probably. But Canada as well, I like a lot.
So did you have to like carry a lot of cash when you went to these places? Or how did it work? Because I don't know if they'd all like have debit and
To
stuff.
tell you the truth, I can. So that was about 6 years ago. Definitely, I would have debit, but debit wouldn't have worked in like places like China that time, and Central Asia. That's really actually a good question. I must have had cash with me, but I don't remember having too much cash, and it never was an issue, except for having to give those border police usually, $20 or that kind of thing. But there, I would have been carrying the cash. That was Central Asia is the only. Europe, it's no problem. You can use debit whenever you want, that kind of thing.
So you never wiped out once?
Wiped out on that trip? No, not really. Oh no, yeah, in Turkey. We were going through the winter, and so it was on the south side of the Black Sea, and we thought we could kind of skirt the winter there. But a friend of mine from Germany came with me, and it snowed a lot, and so the roads were really icy, and we're pulling these bob trailers. So it's a really good system, but not when it's icy, because as soon as it goes a little bit, and then it's attached to your bike, so if it goes, the whole bike goes. And I got hit by a car in London, now that I think about it. I got hit by a taxi. So there's these really big taxis, like they have these big front ends, and I had that trailer system. So it was kind of my fault in a sense, because he was like this, and I was going by him, and I should have had the big flag on it, but I just got rid of it after a while. And he slowly turned in, and then hit my trailer, and then knocked me over. And it was right in the middle of downtown London after like 4 o'clock on a Friday. It was kind of interesting because all these, like hundreds of people came running out and saying it was the taxi's fault, and all like sticking up for me as a cyclist. It was kind of weird. And then it actually got a bit racist as well, because the taxi driver was like not originally from England.
Yeah.
So I got to see a pretty ugly side of England as well, too, like drunk English ladies saying racist stuff, and I just sat there and watched the whole thing.
Did you do anything about the situation, or did you just like?
No, I didn't, because it just felt like it had nothing to do with me.
Yeah, I
right?
probably just want to get out of there and be like, ah.
Well, I had to sit there for 2 or 3 hours. Someone else called the police. We were sitting in the back of a police car.
Yeah.
And the police or the taxi driver was really worked up by then, so I didn't want to add any sort of real like.
Yeah.
Did
Let go.
This is time for one last question. Is there somebody who has not asked the question who wants this amazing opportunity? Otherwise, we're going to default to somebody who already is on fire.
Did you find if you were traveling, did you prefer to travel like by yourself or in groups, or just with like one other person?
It definitely would just depend at the time and place, that sort of thing. Yeah, for sure. Like, and I started the trip on my own, that big bike trip around on my own, and I wanted to do it on my own, but I definitely got to ride with lots of different people, which was incredible. And now that we do these bike trips for different clients from around the world, I actually really appreciate riding in groups. And actually, working with Spanish and Italian clients, their sort of group mentality is a lot different than North Americans. Like the North Americans were a lot more kind of individualistic and a little more competitive within the group. But for them, like they bring over these groups, and it's just so much fun. Like you can have a high level, like a national level ski racer on the group, and then a lady who's not a very good cyclist at all, but they're all very respectful of each other and see it as part of the group. So I've actually learned a lot from them, and it's been really cool. So I really appreciate groups now more.
How big are the groups?
Anywhere from 6 to 20.
So do you know like one word in about 20 different languages now then? Like high and...
Mostly it's weird. Well, like Chinese I can speak the best out of any other language, and so I haven't really tried. Like Italian I can speak a little bit, but I haven't studied it, and Spanish as well. But I never, I'm hoping to study Italian again. But every time I try to think of other words, you probably would know this, like I'm trying to translate, I always think of them in Chinese. Like I'll accidentally speak to them in Chinese, but.
Mandarin or Cantonese?
Mandarin.